What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and when it comes to League, catching up from a loss is definitely one of the hardest things to do, and most guides focus only on how to get you a lead, or how to make use of a lead, rather than what to do if you're behind. Let's get started. Now, the first and most important thing to do, that is often overlooked, is to realize and accept that you are behind. People's superiority complex often comes in, and it takes a lot to admit that you messed up and are currently behind, as it's easy to make an excuse for yourself as to why you are not behind. Things such as, I can take him in a fight, and he's only up 10 CS, and excuses like that are often tossed around, when in actuality you're probably more behind than you think. And accepting that is what you need to do in order to change your playstyle. In addition, starting to catch up as soon as possible, rather than when you're loads behind, makes it a lot easier too. Realizing you're behind is the first step to take in order to catch up. Also, in general, when you're behind, it's likely because you've made some mistakes, and so what you need to do is to avoid tilting. Tilting is where you get frustrated after making mistakes, and that frustration causes you to make even more mistakes. The key to avoiding this is to simply realize that you are making mistakes, and to keep your cool and remain focused. Now, there are two situations where you're going to be playing from behind. The first being where you as a player are individually behind and losing lane, and the second where your team as a whole is behind. Now, for when you're behind in lane, but your team as a whole is not behind, your goal is to make yourself easy to carry. If you can, switch to a tanky build, and avoid trading with your opponent, and be sure to play and position safely, focusing only on CS, and never pass the halfway mark of your lane. Once you pass that halfway mark, you're no longer positioning safely, as your opponent has enough space to fight you. If you can, having an ally come in for a gank may help, but it's only really a good idea if the person ganking for you is ahead or at least in a good spot. Otherwise, the gank can be really risky, especially if it turns into a 2 versus 2. And above all else, you have to prevent the snowball from your opponent. Accept that you have lost and control the collateral damage. Don't try to catch up by making crazy plays, and be sure to respect your opponent, as they were good enough to get a lead from you, so be really careful if you ever fight them. Also, make sure that your opponents do not snowball the game through roaming. To prevent this, ward and communicate with your team, and be very aware whenever they leave the lane. And if all else fails, if you have no hope of facing your opponent directly, you can actually just abandon your lane and let them take the tower, and use that chance to attempt to roam or just wait for the lane to be pushed in, and then freeze while you CS and catch up. Just make sure to control your direct lane opponent and not do anything like rage or complain to your teammates. Now, if your team as a whole is behind, it's a lot harder to deal with. There's a couple of tactics you can try. Split pushing works well if you have the team composition for it, as you can use it to outmaneuver your opponents and take some free objectives, but that can be quite difficult to do. So in general, what I recommend doing is to try and create a pick. Roam as 5 so that you don't get caught out, and pick someone off using your CC and burst damage from the opposing team by warding heavily. People often overextend when they are ahead, so use that to your advantage. You then need to use the resulting 4v5 to take an objective and relieve pressure on the map. If you can catch out your opponents while preventing them from catching you out, it's going to do a ton to bring you back into the game. In addition, make sure to be aware of the game state to know if you can teamfight or not. Some compositions can still teamfight even if you're behind, while others cannot, so make sure to take that into account as well. Just understand how far you are behind and what your limits are. And above all else, be patient, as it's going to take you a while to catch up, and in the end, you might not even be able to do it since it is quite difficult. So just keep a cool head and don't be too down on yourself, as anything can happen in solo queue. My name is Jeremy, and that's it for my video on how to catch up. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my others on the screen right now, or stay connected at facebook.com/gamingcurios. I'd love if you could support me with a like, and make sure to subscribe for some more awesome content in the future if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.